So yeah, I fucked up last night. I was trying to do a video on the subject of Ready or Not censorship, and I got it. It was pretty much done. I had it fully done, and then Vegas ended up crashing on me, and I lost the entire thing. And I decided to just rage quit. And so now you guys are getting slop form instead of a actual edited video. So I'm sorry about that. I tried. So I guess we'll just go over that quickly, and then we can jump into the scary shit. And hopefully... Oh, I forgot to turn off that Cobra. Okay. I'm actually surprised it's not transparent right now, but oh well, it's fine. Okay, so the Ready or Not shit going on right now. So I've got a little bit to say about it. I've got a few issues with what's going on with the censorship there. As you guys know, we've played Ready or Not on stream a couple of times. Really enjoyed it. Those are really good dark SWAT simulator. Thought it was great. Thought it was awesome. I'll be getting into what I'm kind of alluding to here in a sec. But for now, we're just going to start with this guy's video, and I'll just interject with my thoughts. So yeah, we're doing slop form content. Let's get right into it.
Ready or Not is going through one of the weirdest controversies I have ever seen. They are in the
midst
of an identity crisis. Over the years, Void Interactive's realistic SWAT game has been the center of news articles about how red-pilled and grotesque gamers were, how the devs and community happily embraced missions that depicted mass casualty.
Hold up, before we continue, I just want to make sure it's not too loud. Hold up. Before we continue, I just want to make sure it's not too loud. Hold up.
Human trafficking.
Let's turn it up a bit, actually.
Child abuse.
Child abuse.
Actually.
Yeah, that's fine.
Child abuse.
Sorry about that, Deep. I just wanted to make sure audio was good.
School shootings, literally the worst of the worst. But time after time, the devs stood firm and they said, real life is horrible, and we want to depict law enforcement responding to these horrible situations as realistically as possible. They believed in this realism so much so that even when their original publisher said, you need to tone it down or we're not going to publish your game, the devs walked. Void Interactive self-published because Team 17 could not get them to censor their game.
Yeah, this was, so I'm not a day one backer, so it's not like I was a part of the Kickstarter or anything like that. But this was a huge thing that was going on with their Kickstarter. They were marketing and advertising themselves as a true, real, gritty SWAT simulator game. And yeah, it was. But also they said they were uncompromising. And well, looks like they compromised.
That was 4 years ago. And today, Void Interactive is censoring their game. Words I never thought I would be speaking, but we've come full circle. In preparation for the game's launch to consoles later this month, the devs were given a decision. Censor your game and make that sweet, sweet console money, or don't censor it and stick to PC.
So I don't get this argument at all. I don't think this is actually what's going on. This was the main big point towards the end of my video I was trying to make up for this, but I don't think this is what's going on. This is what the devs are saying, but as you guys know, I don't trust devs as far as I can throw them. However, this all is well and good and all, except for you have games like Outlast and Outlast Trials, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Doom. You got all these games that glorify gore and completely relish in intestines and pancreases and blood and everything. And there's not a single bit of censorship. They don't say, hey, this is too gory. And I would argue in these situations, like especially in Resident Evil 2 and Outlast, I would actually argue it has more gore and more violence than Ready or Not does. Ready or Not, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's got gore, it's got a bit of blood, and it's got some decent injuries. I'm not going to lie there. But like, I also feel like most of where it feels harsh. And this is because, again, this is what the game wants you to feel. It's not meant to be saying, this is fun, this is amazing, being a SWAT officer is great. It's there saying, hey, look, This is what happens in the real world. This is what people see and go through. It's fucking disgusting. And even though the injuries themselves may not be Doomslayer ripping two people in half and eating their heart level of gore, it's definitely gets a lot of its uneasiness from the fact that it's trying to be based in reality, that it's themes that it's touching on and what the subjects of the matter are. For instance, in a few of the maps, subjects are children. Very big controversy they ran into was their school shooter map, where you had to stop a school shooter. Again, not a fun situation. No one is saying this is meant to be like, oh yeah, glorifying school. It's not. You're there to stop the shooting, and you're there to be the officers in that situation. And I actually really, when we were playing through it on stream, I praised the devs for touching on such sensitive topics in a tasteful, respectful way. It was actually really, it was really good that they could actually produce something that had commentary and a story on this that doesn't normally get told because people were too scared of, well, this.
The devs chose the more profitable route, obviously, and they announced a new patch that would not just censor the content so it would be approved on console.
You guys want to see that, by the way? You guys want to see how that's going for them, by the way? You guys want to see how that's going for them? Let's have a look-see here. Where are we at? Where's their update? Where is their update at? Void Interactive, clarification on content changes, because they've been getting absolutely ridiculed right now. Everyone's just pissing and coming on them. So they're making a clarification to content changes. Clarification is that they are just repeating what we already know. So if you're wondering, some of the censorship is like in here. Hold up. Let's make...
But these...
Oh, sorry, buddy. Let's make this bigger screen for now. So as you can see here, when we were playing through the game, we came across the shipping container, and there's some naked people in there because they're being human trafficked, you know. It's a fucking disgusting situation. Well, apparently human traffickers have more decency these days, and they made sure that they're wearing underwear. Same thing here. This guy is an ex-policeman. He was undercover in this dangerous neighborhood. He got found out, and he was tortured. His balls were out. And the torturers were so graceful in the update that they made sure that his balls were warm. I'm glad for that. This one is egregious, okay? So I don't get this one. In this one, you got pictures of children on this desk here. And they've removed it completely. And they put a picture of the shipping container that is up here. This is really stupid. First of all, this shipping container, you think, why the fuck would he have it? This guy has nothing to do with this story, as far as I know. As far as what I've played, the guy that you are mainly here to arrest isn't connected to this directly. However, these pictures are what he was directly involved with. He was soliciting CP from some dude that you eventually go into his mansion and you go and... there was two parts to it. There was a part with a children... like one of those child photography places that retarded parents send their kids to because they're bad parents. And then there was one part in the mansion, and both times you go ahead and you fuck them up because they're disgusting. But they've changed it now to not only remove actual evidence that this guy was committing, which is changing the story massively, but now that I saw someone made a comment earlier saying, but now it gives points it to this mission. It's like, yeah, but it already pointed to two previous missions before. This isn't more continuity. This is plot holing. But my egregious sin here, I think, is with this one. With the kid that's overdosed. This was my main point I was trying to make in my video. The main example I used. Because this was the first time most people have getting a shock in the game. When I went through it for the first time, we had issues not issues. So we went through, you get into this room and there's a music box playing and you walk into what looks like a kid's room and you see this kid in a bed spasming out, coughing up blood, and you see a drug needle next to her. She's overdosing. You see that her foot's fucked up, indicating that when her mother was pregnant, she was a druggie. So even before she was even born, her life's been fucked up. And you get into this room, you feel uneasy the whole time. And that's the point. This game is trying to put that into you for a reason. These are what officers deal with. This is what they see. If anything, they see far worse than what we see in the game. And you have to now go through the rest of that mission with that image in your head and still have to, quote unquote, play it professionally. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. It's a video game. You can rack up all the charges you want by just capping everyone. But if you're playing it seriously, you still have to use your rules of engagement. And the whole time, you still got this burned into your head. They change it now to her sleeping. She's just sleeping. No drug needle. No spasming. No coughing up blood. Yeah, sure, she's probably still abused. She's in a drug house after all. But that's it. It's vague now. We have to now assume what's happened to her. When before we know. It's blatant in your face and it makes you feel completely uneasy. These censorship things just make no sense to me. As you can see, 0 likes. Oh, I didn't know it was still at 0. Last time I checked, it was around 1,000 comments. We're at nearly 3,000 comments now. Not a single like. Not a single like. In fact, if you hit discuss, you're going to see almost 900 jesters. Pretty good, pretty good. I've given them a jester already, don't worry. And yeah, all the comments here, they're clowning on them. And it comes down to why I wanted SWAT AI improvements, what I got, censorship. Everyone just doesn't want this. It changes the game fundamentally. It changes what they bought, which was another key point in the video I was trying to make, where you bought this and you bought it for a certain reason. That reason was fulfilled, and years after you have played the game, they are now changing what you have bought so it's unrecognizable for the reason you got it. And at least under New Zealand law, that is illegal. It comes under fraud, tampering, and something else. Give me my refund. I will not be buying anything from you ever again. Yep, pretty much. Not cool. No one likes this. What is this? We got 201 pages now of this shit. 201. Actually insane. Do you guys really pay that much attention to a kid on a bed or stare at a men's penis? Okay, so this is another thing too. I've been seeing some really, really weird takes in this. There was one lady in the discussion board going on about how none of these changes make a big deal of the game or anything like that, and she doesn't care and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. You're just there for the gameplay. I get that. That's fine. You can be there for just the gameplay. But for those that are actually there for experiencing the entire game, including its story, these are big things. They change core things of the story, because half the story is environmental world building and the other half is how the game makes you feel. That was the point of it. Anyways, yeah, they're retarded. Let's get back to the video. Let's put that back on that screen. No, stay on that screen. You come over here. Bring me that video.
These changes were going to be pushed to the PC version as well. Yeah, the community is not taking that very well. I've seen countless articles, Reddit threads, and Twitter posts just talking about how everyone is upset and pissed off, and how they're
There's
now
a
gonna go
lot of
review
people
bomb the game on Steam.
You want to just realize too. So that comment I read earlier with that retarded person, trying to make there's nothing to the devs. We're trying to make everyone out to be the sickos. They said, why do you want this in the game? How about why the fuck did you put it in there in the first place? If you're going to be calling us sickos, it was you guys that made it in the first place. You're the real sickos. Fucking hell. Anyways, I just thought it's these people that are trying to go against this narrative, they are trying to say that it's not a big deal. I think it's funny not even them decided to put a like on the post. I think that's really funny.
They are now doing, as of writing this, the game is mixed on Steam and trending downwards towards negative, and then probably mostly negative. We'll see how that goes. But what I haven't seen talked about is the why. Why are these specific changes being done but not others? Why does a small change in an animation now make this game approved on consoles? Why did this game have to change but not others? which are arguably
And that's
more
exactly
graphic.
it. That's
So-
exactly my point. Like, again, we have games like Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4, new Resident Evils. We got the Dooms. We got the friggin' Outlast. We got, Call of Duty's been getting more gruesome recently. None of them have to do anything with censorship. They're fine with doing whatever they want.
So today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about censorship and a company changing content after you purchased it. Is that fair? Is that
It's illegal. It's illegal. Imagine, right? Okay, I'm going to take this to an extreme real quick. I will be taking this to an extreme, so just a heads up there. Let's say you brought a game about whacking piñatas, and then they changed the piñata out, and now it's something else, but still technically a piñata, and you still have a stick, and you're still whacking it, and then they change it again, and now it's no longer a stick you have a gun. And now you're shooting a piñata that doesn't quite look like a piñata. They change it again. And eventually it gets to the point where the game's just not recognizable. That is not the game you brought. It is a completely different game at that point. I mean, are we really going to say that it's not changing the core game when we can obviously see developers do this? Some more abrasively than others, like with Overwatch, completely getting rid of the original game and you're forced to stay with the shitty version. So yeah, I genuinely do think there is a case to be made that this is breaching some kind of legality. Here in New Zealand, I definitely know it is under our Consumer Guarantees Act. I know that it would probably do pretty well in court.
Is that legal? Do you deserve a refund?
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to talk about things like
I believe
ESRB
so.
ratings. What makes this
I do believe a refund should be available. I hope Steam steps up to that. But again, that's going to be up to Steam and whether or not they make that choice.
new version of Ready or Not console approved and not PC only, why other games that might seem more graphic do get a pass, and why these specific changes, even if they do seem small to some people, like a texture change here or an animation change there, why they go against the very core of what makes Ready or Not Ready or Not.
Like I said before, world building, storytelling, and the way the game tries to make you feel. But there is an also bigger issue that comes into play here. Is that even if they are quote unquote not big deals, which I personally do think they are, the next problem that's in my head is where does it stop? Where can we have a line drawn saying that won't get changed any further? The devs say they won't. They said that last time too with the school shooting censorship that they did. This isn't the first time they've done it. The last time they did it, they said that we won't do this anymore. We won't censor again. And here we are, we're censoring again. So, again, it proves that they're liars, even though developers are always liars anyways. I mean, look at Pirate Software anyways. But yeah, where does it stop? If they change this now, what will they change in the future? That's my point.
Ready or Not was born out of controversy. Its reveal trailer in 2017 was dark, gritty, and violent, depicting SWAT officers responding to horribly graphic situations like bloodied and dying hostages or emaciated human trafficking victims stumbling out of shipping containers. But by 2020, a small group of supporters were given early access, and the gameplay that came from that was questionable at best. Originally spun as a spiritual successor of SWAT 4, it now looked more akin to a worse version of Rainbow Six Siege, but everyone's concerns were put to rest when the game launched into early access in 2021. It was dark, it was gritty, it was violent, and at times, it was uncomfortable. It showed the very raw world that law enforcement operates in, and that drew criticism from outlets like Kotaku, calling it a violent political fantasy, even going as far as to...
This is the problem that I think we're going to start seeing too, is a lot more of this. Again, it's not that it's a fantasy. I mean, why do people anywhere play simulators? It's to get a feel for that game, whether it's a flight simulator, a trucking simulator, a war simulator like Arma, or in this case, a SWAT. They are definitely going to be involved in, like, it's not all rainbows and hugs, you know, like they do deal with criminals. I don't get it. I really don't.
Say that Ready or Not's realism is effective enough to disturb, but too shallow not to descend into farce or worse, Blue Lives Matter cosplay with fascist overtones. And
oh god, I hate when they get this type of thinking, dude. I hate when everyone brings up this Blue Lives Matter bullshit. I hate it. Look, let's face it. these people are the first ones to cry for a policeman the moment something happens around them. So I pay absolutely no attention to people that are against police like that. I'm not happy with police either. I think there's a lot of bad ones out there, but I also do believe there's a lot of good ones too. And so, yeah, I don't get this whole broad brushing of a whole subject. I think it's just disingenuous.
And alt-right dog whistles. Ready or Not had engaging gunplay. Controlling your squad was fun, actual breach and clear tactics were needed, and there was a wide variety of weapons. But the theme of depicting the unapologetic...
That's something I do have to mention. As much as I do feel like a lot of the weapons feel a little bit samey, I do think it's great that they give you a large variety. I just wish they went into bigger categories. Half of the guns you use, especially in the assault rifle range, is all just a variant of M16, if we be real.
Apologetic violence in the world we live in is what really carried it. As the game then entered early access, a Reddit thread popped up and asked if the devs would be including a school shooting map sometime in the future, and in a now deleted comment, the devs responded, "You better believe it's gonna." Well, corporate game management did not like that, and within days, publisher Team 17 announced that they would no longer be working with Void Interactive, and in their official announcement on
Team 17's a pussy!
the school level, they state that it's not just a part of fabric of Ready or Not story, it is part of the fabric of thousands of people's stories worldwide.
Yeah.
It is the story of those who have died too soon at the hands of a deranged gunman. The story of family and friends waiting for a phone call that might never come. The story of the first responders who do everything they can only for it to not be enough. It is a look at an uncomfortable reality that has become all too common, and we hope that we can play some small part in honoring those who have been impacted by these real-world tragedies with a portrayal that does not trivialize their experiences. We will continue to follow our vision, we will continue to listen, and we will continue to work every day on Ready or Not. And by the time...
Yikes. Well, apparently not, because they went back on that pretty quickly once money got involved. So, yeah, that was my point, is that they were very tasteful and respectful about the situations they put you in. They didn't have any commentary on what's going on. It was simply, you're playing cops and robbers, just a bit more realistic. There was no, oh, you should be heroing every policeman. You should be this way. None of that. It was just, you go into the situation. Your job is to deal with a gunman, in this case in a school, and that was it. That setting alone was impactful enough to hit you hard. They didn't need to do any of this weird political crap that people are assuming are in there.
Time the game entered into 1.0 in 2023, the map titled Elephant was released. Without knowing the backstory here, it might seem like this was just a map about some random school in some random town in the US, but Elephant...
I know where he's going to go with this, and even taking this out of context, like, let's face it, what is the first school shooting anyone ever thinks about? It's obvious. It's definitely obvious. So even with this out, they didn't even need to name it Elephant, but I know where he's going with this, and it does make sense.
Is a 2003 movie about a school shooting based on the Columbine High School massacre, where 2 students murdered 13 of their classmates. One teacher, they planted bombs in 2 different locations in the school, and after a gunfight with police, they eventually committed suicide.
Yeah,
the movie,
it was pretty
Elephant,
fucked.
is
No, I think
heavily
everyone
influenced by the
can
real
agree
life
that it was
events
fucked.
of Columbine and takes place at Watt High School, while in Ready or Not, the in-game mission is called Elephant and takes place at Watt Community College. Additionally, the map is only one of 2 in-game that is timed due to the explosive devices, just like the ones that were placed during...
Might I add too, I think that was one of the best maps in the game. Not because of the setting as per se. Again, people can say, "Oh, you just did the school shootings." No, that timing on the map added so much stress to the game. It wasn't funny. I remember me and Darian going through it, and we both agreed that was probably one of the better maps. We played it back a couple of times to try and do things cleaner and quicker. And yeah, no, I found that to be one of the more replayable maps, to be honest.
Columbine, and it's the only map in the game to not have any ambient music. And this isn't a one-off. The devs constantly use real-life examples for their game, such as the nightclub mission titled Neon Tomb, which was released just a few days before the 6th anniversary of the real-life Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida. To put it bluntly, these are not comfortable missions.
No,
It's
they're not
a
meant to
comfortable
be.
situation at all. And you don't just feel like you're in a school shooting, but you feel like you're in that school shooting.
Yeah.
You feel like you're in Orlando, Florida at the Pulse nightclub, and the weight of what actually happened there hits you. Or at least it hit me. And
It's
in
meant
saying
to.
that, I think that's a good feeling. And I don't mean that I'm condoning anything that happened, of course, or that I'm just
See,
like,
this is the biggest thing. I hate that he has to say this. Just because a games or stories, whether it's a book, movie, whatever, just because they touch on dark tones and it hits you and impacts you and it's good storytelling, just because you say it's good storytelling doesn't mean that you endorse and want to do those things. I don't get why people think, oh, he's playing a game where there's a school shooting, he wants to be a school shooter. No. Like, how about I'm playing a game that has me putting myself outside my comfort zone and showing me what happens in the real world? Like, we can't just say that it doesn't happen. When you're playing this type of game, it's meant to make you feel uneasy. If you don't feel uneasy through it, then yeah, sure, maybe there's some kind of conversation around that. But even then, without someone directly saying, yes, I am into that, do not clip me out of context, then yeah, there's no reason to believe that. Just because a game or medium touches on that subject does not mean the people that enjoy or watch that subject endorse that subject.
feeling good in this moment as I'm interacting with the game, but it feels good to feel bad. There's something just innately human about feeling these types of raw emotions, and maybe I can explain this best through a personal story. So, years ago, I was in the emergency medical services field.
Hey,
and I was a
my
state and
boy!
nationally certified EMT.
Yo, my boy, I wish I brushed shoulders with you when I was working in hospitals too. I think I know where he's going with this. I wasn't on first responders. I can't say what it's like going into places. He sounded like he's on first responders. But we definitely got to see what happened to that person afterwards, that's for sure. And let's just say they're not pretty.
And although I never ended up signing on to a station full time since I instead chose to go to fire school.
Hey, good on you,
got
dude.
canceled due to COVID. One of the requirements to become a certified EMT is ride time on an ambulance.
Yeah.
And you start off by being a student. You're a student for months. But when you finally pass enough of the in-class work, you pair up with a paramedic for real calls. And these guys, dude, they let you do a lot. You really get your hands dirty. It's
the thing is, in a lot of medical situations, they really get this. They want their students to do well. They teach them so well. I've heard really bad horror stories from my teachers at uni right now, where some placements have gone absolutely batshit right. But on average, quite often, medical personnel want the next wave of people to come in and get a good teacher. So yeah, it sounds something like what we're going through.
It's an incredible feeling, and it really prepared me for the real world of being a first responder. So real quick, shout out to Collier County EMS. Thank you guys again for the ride time.
Hey, my boys!
I appreciate all
Shout-outs
the
to
time
them.
I spent learning from you guys. But when my ride time finally came around, I was ecstatic. I'd been reading medical books, practicing in our lab on dummies, and here I was, finally able to go out and put what I actually learned to work, to get my hands dirty. I was so excited that I got to the station 30 minutes before my shift. I did all the truck checks with my medic. I just walked around this tiny little station like I was at Disneyland.
He's the type of guy you want,
I was
dude.
on top of the world. And when that first call came in, I ran into the back of the truck. I buckled up. I was beaming. I had my notepad out. I was pumped. This was so cool.
And it all hit him like a ton of bricks.
I was being the guy. As we pull out of the station, I'll never forget this. Lights and sirens blaring, giant smile on my face. My medic shouts back to me, 2-year-old male ingested a Tide Pod. And it was like a giant wave of fear and dread.
I could see that.
And sadness all washed over me. I even got mad in that moment at the parents for a situation that I didn't even know happened. I just created these situations in my head, and here I am.
This is something that happens to a lot of new people. almost happened to me, but I got a good talking to in order to kind of cope with it better. Is that a lot of people come in with all these great aspects, and when they get their first case that really hits home, I think for me it was the first time I quote unquote killed someone. What happened was I moved them in ICU so we could do a bed wash, and that movement was enough to set them off. And from there on, it was downhill. And they put me on blood duty. I had to go get blood back and forwards from pathology, grabbing blood for like a good half an hour to an hour. And everyone's just around this patient, just making sure that everything works out. And you just hear from one of the doctors just saying to Des saying, hey, you're going to want to call the family. It's not going to be much longer. And at that point, you're just like, oh, shit, this is fucked. This is like, it looks horrific what's going on. And I remember I had to go out and when I was on break, I called up my parents and I told them everything and all this other stuff. And they're like, nah, man, you just need to think clinically and all that stuff. So they put me in a mindset that works. For it, you have to become very robotic when you're in that industry. You see and do a lot of shit that you don't feel is right, but you have to do in order for someone to survive. That's what this guy is clearly about to go through. He's in a situation now where he's dealing with something that really hits home for him, and your first time on it hits hard.
Acting like a dumbass just a few minutes ago, getting all excited to get called out on an ambulance. And my first ever call is a kid who swallowed concentrated liquid detergent.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was 7 months pregnant at the time, and my first ever call was going to be a toddler that could possibly be dying.
And the thing is, too, it could be anyone's child. It could even be his. Like, granted, there are things you can do to help the situation so kids don't get into the situation. But sometimes it only takes a second. Sometimes it only takes saying they've injured themselves, they've done something, and it was out of your control. It happens, and that's what I think scares a lot of people.
My second call that same night was a woman who overdosed behind a dumpster at a McDonald's, and that McDonald's was quite literally across the street from my apartment. I could never really go back to that McDonald's because I just picture bagging her over and over again.
Yeah.
And
she
was
passed.
shocking.
Did she
entire
pass?
day, I went in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and it slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
I'm
It slaps
extremely
hard.
thankful that it did. I felt very real emotions that I didn't know I could feel. It prepared me for the rest of my studies. And although I wouldn't say I was ever excited.
This is why I feel like I have a slight advantage in my studies right now, is working in the hospital beforehand and dealing with all these subjects. Emotionally, I feel like I can handle it. It's just the whole study side of things now that I have to get used to. But I remember I was talking to one of my classmates and I was telling him about what I went through, and then he kind of like got this like smile went straight down to a frown type reaction, and he's like, oh, and I was like, yeah, man, we're dealing with some pretty crazy shit, just letting you know.
Excited to be on call again. I became excited to do work and to help and to use my knowledge and to be there for someone during what could possibly be that person's worst day in their life. And I loved it. But I needed to have that first call slap me in the face and make me realize what I was getting myself into.
Yep.
It's okay to be human. It's okay to feel scared and sick and disturbed. And I don't say this for pity or for a thank you or whatever. EMS was just
It's
a
what makes
really
us
small
human.
part of my life. But what it did was make me feel very real emotions. And Ready or Not made me feel those same emotions. I don't want to speak for law enforcement officers or other first responders who...
And that's the thing I'm trying to be careful with here too, is because, again, I haven't worked as a policeman or a SWAT member. So, again, that's why I'd say things are probably far worse than what the game describes and shows you. Because we don't know to what extent a certain officer will go through. I think the point of that game is to make you feel like you're grounded in reality and that this is something that they would see.
Have been in horrible situations like what's depicted in this game, but from my own real experiences that made me legitimately scared and uncomfortable and sick and sad, this game did a surprisingly good job at replicating that.
Yeah.
Games are a form of art.
I have to fully agree there. Everything I saw from how you infiltrated and everything like that, and you see how the civilians interact with you and how you deal with them and what happens to the victims, it makes sense. logically, and what seen in my work at the hospital, some of these injuries look pretty good. They really do show what is possible. I'll put it that way.
It can be fun, and yeah, we can share a laugh with our buddies as we accidentally flashbang them while we breach, but it's also okay to walk into a completely quiet school with dead students lying around and be super uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's
that's
okay
the
to feel
point
the
of
weight
it.
of what just happened and try to work through that. It's okay to be disturbed sometimes as you break into a room and see a child convulsing from drugs she was forced to
Yeah.
take as she was abused. It's okay to be shaken when you open a container and you see naked, emaciated women coming out of it. Because that stuff actually happens, and it is shocking. It's not fun. It's not sexy like what Call of Duty tries to make it seem. It's all really disturbing. And this adds a whole
It's
new layer
fucked
to the
up, yeah.
game. You need to not just breach and clear, but you need to process all these emotions while you do it. And this brings us to the crux of the issue. In order to be rated and approved for consoles, games have to go through different approval boards. Not only do you have the standard gaming approvals like the ESRB in the US, which will rate a game from E to everyone up to AO for adults only,
Yep.
but you also have console-specific approvals where
See,
Microsoft,
this was
Sony,
something
and
that I
Nintendo-
actually didn't know until this controversy, was that there isn't actually console specific ratings like that. But again, as we're probably about to see, and what my issue is that this game I don't feel like comes close to games like Outlast or Resident Evil.
Nintendo literally can say what they want or don't want on their hardware. This creates a very confusing landscape for what is approved or what is not approved in gaming. Since although the ESRB may find the use of drugs okay, the Australian Classification Board may not.
The Australians suck when it comes to this. You guys remember the whole Manhunt fiasco that went down? Granted, that game is pretty fucked up. But Australia is the first people to ban a game. If a game hits AO, it is very likely it's banned in Australia. Some R18 games are banned in Australia. It is insane.
Not. Fallout 3 was actually originally banned
Yeah.
due to its realistic
Fallout
depiction of
was
drugs,
banned in
with
Australia, I
Australia's
forgot.
ACB citing that they just really didn't like that players could casually take morphine because
It wasn't just that. It wasn't just that too. It was also because of the cannibalism in it.
morphine is a real drug. Eventually, Bethesda changed morphine to what we all now know as MedX, and this censorship was pushed globally despite just one regional player, Australia, requiring it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is just how the world works. Certain societies have different tolerances for sex, drugs, or violence. In order to access an international player base, developers need to make sure that all of the marketable regions approve of it. This is also why World War II games now have
They don't. They can just either A, choose to say no to their country, have their country rise up, and the gamers rise up, Like, again, this is why you got things like the stop killing games things going on in European countries and all this other stuff. If something like this happens and the player base doesn't agree, talk to your representatives. Say, hey, this law is fucking retarded. This law is being misused in this case.
have more or less stopped making German-specific versions of their game that would censor Nazi imagery. This imagery
it's
is illegal
like,
in the country, so
it's
from
so
a business
stupid.
standpoint, it's easier just to create one international version that has an iron cross.
Here's another big problem, though. I see where he's going with this, but this doesn't make sense considering a lot of other game companies that do this kind of censorship thing will then make a separate copy depending on the country. China normally gets their own version. Saudi Arabia gets their own versions of games. Look at you take the Spider-Man 2 fiasco where people try and get rid of the pride flag in a mod. It turns out you don't even need a mod to do it. Just have a Saudi Arabian copy of the game. It takes it out automatically. It's almost like they can make these games. They are game developers. It's a part of their job to make games. They just don't want to for what reason.
Instead of a swastika, and although you may get some grumblings from some people dead set on historical accuracy, you'll have a game that can be sold everywhere. What's interesting, however, is that even with all of these conflicting ratings boards internationally, Ready or Not was still sold without any regional bans on Steam. It was never adults only for excessive sex.
Yeah,
or
that's
violence.
actually
It had
a
to be
really good point. how the fuck is this game being sold in Australia right now? If it's really that bad, Australia would be the first people to ban it. They really would.
Reclassified. Australia never stepped in and caused some problems. Nothing had to be toned back during its life in early access. The convulsing child and the school shooting missions caused a few articles to be written,
But that's it.
that
Yeah, it's just
content was
Kotaku.
still seen as
Everyone hates them.
okay to ship in the PC market. In North America, the game is rated M for mature. In Europe, it's PEGI 18.
Yeah.
And in Australia, it's R18 plus. These are all ratings.
That's the
which are
closest
common-
you're going to get to it before it becomes AO in Australia. That is actually insane how normally it's just 18. But if it's 18 plus, they're basically saying it's AO.
in
That's
both
insane.
PC and console gaming. But as we just said, with
What is it
Fallout
here
3,
for me in New Zealand? I bet you it's 18. I bet you. Ready or not, store page. Mostly negative, yeah, that checks out. What's the age rating up for me? Where do I even see that on Steam? All right, let's just try Google then. Let's go over here. Go like this. Go XO. Google. And let's go ready or not NZ age rating. I am very interested. Wow, it's only R16 here in New Zealand. I was expecting 18. Most game, I think it's just a blanket
Napalm
stamp.
sticks to kids.
Yes, it sticks to everyone. It really does. So yeah, now normally everything here just gets stamped with an R16. Every now and then an 18, but I'm very surprised Ready or Not's only 16 here. I am surprised about that. That's the best part. Equality. Damn.
Australia
What's up,
is
ASM? Welcome,
notoriously
chat, man.
stricter when it comes to ratings, and they actually have a classification above R18 called refused classification. These are for
Yeah.
films or games that depict, express, or otherwise deal with matters of
They're banned. These are banned content.
sex, drug misuse, or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence, or revolting or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency,
Thanks for the help last night. Yeah, no, it's all good. I had when I read what that guy was saying, I immediately knew that he wasn't giving all the details. Quite often, whenever people talk like that, they assume a lot out of the reader. If it's someone's first time modding, they don't stand a chance. I know it's not your first time, but I'm just saying that on a bigger scale, that's just normally how it goes. People are like, oh, this is too hard. Yeah, because they don't write the instructions very well.
and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults to the extent that they should not be classified. And if it depicts in a way that is likely to cause offense to a reasonable adult, a minor who
Yeah,
is
that's exactly my point. Is Sam. Like once the instructions are clear, it is pretty fairly easy. You see the mod put? I did see it was the HD remaster. Like someone updated all the textures and shit, right? But yeah, no, like if it's written out properly, it's pretty simple. Just follow what you're being told. Was Miku? Oh, it was Miku. She's in everything at this point.
or who appears to be under 16, whether or not
Or ADHD,
engaged in
gotcha.
sexual activity, or promote, incite, or instruct in matters of crime or violence. So this means that even the strictest ratings board in the world, Australia, still found that Ready or Not was acceptable at an R18 rating, meaning
Granted, at the very end of R18, it's very close to being banned.
that theoretically this should still be okay to ship for consoles unedited. So why is that important? Well, it's because the changes coming to the game are the following. Although dismemberment is still included, you can no longer dismember corpses.
Which I don't understand the censorship either. So, like, is there a difference between dismembering a corpse and dismembering an alive person? To me, they're equally the same. If anything, I could argue the point doing to alive people is worse because they can feel it. So I don't understand this. It's like a half censorship, and it feels weird.
Gore has been toned down, specifically things like the tortured police informant in the Narcos mission. Nudity has
So they say that, but he looks exactly the same gore-wise. The only thing they censored was his genitals. That was it.
also been addressed by adding more clothing to some civilians and a suspect. And finally, in the mission Twisted Nerve, the child's animation has gone from a convulsive, spasming animation to one which shows them unconscious or sleeping.
Yeah, so it completely destroys the whole tone, tension, and vibe of the whole map. And what was a stopping point where you were in shock what you saw in that map and carried with you to the end of the mission, and some people, they probably carried it on further, it's removed now. It's just a sleeping kid now. It's like, yeah, okay, we can assume she's abused, but she's in a house filled with drug addicts. Cool, that makes sense. But you get rid of that stopping power, that, oh my God, this kid's fucked up. Because now it's like, you can only assume, because it's just a still model. Like, there's nothing else to it. Like, you can only assume. When you make things vague, in some cases works. In the case that this game is trying to present, where its storytelling is done through characters and through dead people, environments, and what is being told. Hell, there's a whole underlying story of all these people in a hotel room that they ended up all cheating on each other. And you can untangle this whole love quarrel based on notes on a fridge and answering machines and shit like that. That's the type of storytelling this game thrives in. And they're actively getting rid of that kind of storytelling by doing this.
They follow up by saying that the changes with the console version are small enough that most people here.
Honestly, at this point, SM, I would also believe that. Like, when I was in Australia for about 3 years or so, it gives that kind of vibe. I think what the truth is that the internet connection is so damn slow, I don't think they know it's a gun until it's too late. By the time the game's being posted, like, oh shit, that's a gun. We already gave our rating, though.
Wouldn't notice if we didn't say anything, but we want to be transparent. So to recap, the strictest ratings board in the world said that Ready or Not did not have excessive themes towards sex, drug use, crime, violence, child abuse, any of that.
And I think that's because of the nature of it. Yes, it's in the game, but it's not glorifying it. Like I keep saying, the tact and respect they put towards these themes is unreal. You are not sitting there going, yeah, let's get fent up, boys, and kill as many people. Like, if, for example, let's say Call of Duty, all of their missions were no Russian. All of them. Yeah, they'll probably get banned in Australia. But because there was only one mission depicting a side and what they did, because Ready or Not is on the side of against crimes as a whole, including the ones that officers can make. You get penalized for committing crimes. So I think it does a pretty good job in saying, yeah, this shit bad. That Australia's like, yeah, no, it's not glorifying it.
It was there, but it was appropriate for the theme of the game. But Microsoft or Sony or both of them, they came in and they said, no, you need to dial it back. Now, we don't have...
Again, we don't know that. That is just what the developers have said. And I remember, like I showed before, they're getting clowned on pretty hard right now. I think that may play a certain bit. I think they were told something by Microsoft and or Sony. One of them or both of them might have mentioned something. But I don't think that's the full story. I'm going to, unless he touches on it more, I will talk about it after the video. But I don't think that's the whole thing. I really don't.
Word for word for why those things were rejected, but we can base our assumptions on what happened with other games. In 2024, the game
I heard
Hunter
about that one.
Impact
That was
refused classification in Australia
up.
due to a scene of a visual depiction of implied sexual violence where an adult male exposes himself to persons under the age of 18 years. Now, obviously, that's not what's happening in Ready or Not.
Nah, No, it's
Julia
not.
agreed whatever is happening in Ready or Not is okay, but Sony and Microsoft may believe that this sexual violence is too heavily implied during the twisted nerve child bed scene. And by
It used to be worse. It actually used to be worse too. There was actually a condom on a bed, if I remember correctly, at an early build. I heard that, so don't quote me on it. It's a Chinese whisper at this point, but I did hear that on a Steam forum somewhere. So if that's true, it was worse. It has already been censored a little bit.
changing the animation from a convulsing child to one that is unconscious, it could be more palatable, and
I'm
players may
quoting you.
not have to deal with the realization that this child was actively being abused. This is also
But that's the whole point of this mission, is to show that the child is being abused. And besides what I said earlier, because they have removed that, if that is true, it's not, you can assume sexual, sure, but we definitely know, because of the state that child is in, we know for a fact she has been abused physically in the terms of at least drugs, and we can assume beatings, but we know for sure drugs. Said this, it's a true quote him on it.
almost
Yeah,
likely the case
exactly.
the clothes
Whatever people say online is true 100% of the time.
added to the women being trafficked, as it implies violent sexual acts. The clothes dampen this by giving the player a chance to believe there is some
What
form
are
of
you?
humanity.
What? Hold up. What do you mean? She was fully clothed. Nah. This is a narrative going on right now. Hold up. She was fully clothed before. I don't know where he's getting that from. Hold up. I would install the game again just to show you guys, but let's just go to that clarification post they made. So we'll go to yeah, she's fully clothed, but in both. Again, here, I'll make it bigger for you guys. You can see here that besides the drug needle, her convulsing and spitting up blood, like, all they've done is remove all context. That's all they've done. Not once did I think, oh, sexual shit. Like, and it's not like the game is afraid of touching on that, as we see down here that there's a whole storyline about CP. So I don't get where he's got that from. She's fully clothed there in both instances. I don't get that one. Really don't. No.
Humanity given to these women. Manhunt 2 back in 2007 had to explicitly
Wait, there was a
darken
sequel? What? I didn't know there was a sequel. I knew Manhunt 1 got banned in Australia. Got banned in a few countries.
blur violent executions and implied sexual
Yeah, I
violence
only
for
knew of
this
the
exact
first
reason,
game.
allowing it to move from an adults only rating down to an M. So I don't think we're ever going to get
Yeah, there was a sequel? Dog, I didn't even know. I knew the first game was straight up banned. I didn't think they would try that. They have cojones to make a sequel then. Holy shit.
definitions from Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo on what they actually consider too graphic or too violent or too sexual, or the themes that Australia are okay with, but they can't have on their console. I'd be very surprised if they came out and said that, and I don't think that even makes sense.
It
Why
doesn't,
go
a
even
lot of this
further?
isn't making
Because
sense right now.
we see things like this all the time. TV shows, movies,
Yeah.
they have all this type of stuff in it, and at max will be rated R, not X. You can see this on daytime TV. You can go to the movies and see things like this. TV
Hell,
shows like Special Victims Unit.
Hell, fucking Marvel was getting absolutely insane. Kai showed me the scene from a Marvel movie recently, and I seriously, like, he didn't even tell me it was from Marvel. He just showed me this scene, and there was a scene of one of the Captain Americas beating the absolute shit out of someone, like absolutely going ham. And I unironically thought he was showing me a scene from The Boys. I genuinely did. I was like, dog, this has to be like a spoof or something. This is fucking violent, dude. This is something I would not show my kid. And this is on a Marvel movie. It's fucking insane. TV show, movie, whatever it was. It was insane. I'll have to actually. I'll see if Kai's on. I'll see if I can get him to send it to me. Where is he? Kai. Think he's offline. Yeah, I still ping him anyways, but it's enough to piss him off. It's around 12 for him. Oh, okay. I'll make sure to call him then. Is it around 12? I was about to do it too, but
Constantly
I
have
won't.
child
I'll be
engagement.
nice. I'll be
Game
nice.
of Thrones had gratuitous sex and even rape scenes, and King Joffrey, a child, was poisoned on screen in front of us while we all clapped for it. Well, the reason with that, and I don't agree with it, but at least in the US considers games interactive while TV and movies are passive. And according
What about books then? You have to actively read each word and visualize it. I actually find books to be more graphic than. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Kai. Just to illustrate my point that I was talking about earlier. Boop. We'll look this up. So it's from Winter Soldier. Oh, fuck off. What have I just done? Why is that there? Winter Soldier. Hold up. No. We want to go Falcon. And Winter Soldier. John kills a man. This scene here absolutely took me like by surprise. I thought it was a spoof. I genuinely didn't think this was real.
Hey, Lamar. Where is she? It wasn't me! It wasn't me!
See what I mean? It's fucked up. And I'm like sitting there like Kai was showing this to me and I'm like, dude, I thought Marvel was for kids, dude. Like, granted, there are exceptions. Like, you got your Deadpools and shit. But this was like, I feel like this went way too far for what their target demographic's meant to be. That's not the reaction we want. That is very funny. No.
According to the Congressional Senate testimony from ESRB President Patricia Vance on September 28, 2004.
See, if Marvel can do
she
that,
stated
then why can't
all media
games
are not
do
the same.
something
Motion
similar?
Pictures and television programs usually involve visual depictions of real actors on film in realistic situations. Music consists of auditory and occasionally visual elements. Music, film, and TV are passive media, but games are interactive. This element of player control makes games unique among entertainment media, and it is not at all clear to me that one could devise a single system that could accurately or effectively capture the different aspects of various entertainment media. This was her argument for creating a different standard for games, and as such, we now have scenes in movies or TV shows that would ironically never be allowed in gaming.
Like what I just showed you. You did that. That would be straight up an R16, R18 game here in New Zealand for sure. But yeah, no, it's fine if it's in Marvel movie though.
And it's all just because we're not interacting with it. The act of physically holding a controller,
The
of a
president is a
player
woman.
controlling this character as this scene unfolds in front of them, is what is so horrible. It engages the player and makes them part of it. Or at least our society believes that. But this still begs the question, why this game and not
And
others?
this is what I
'Cause
was
there are
saying.
plenty of
Because this is where my argument comes in. Why can Doom get away with absolute gore? Like again, it's cartoonish gore. Like you won't see a SWAT member ripping a criminal in half and pull out his still beating heart and slurp up his intestines. Like I get that, but why can you do that in Doom and it's fine on console? Why can you actually behead the shit out of people in Assassin's Creed Shadows? Why can you do just as much vile, disgusting things in Ghost of Tsushima? What about Resident Evil 2 Remake? How gory that is. Or better yet, Sony's Golden Boy Outlast. Why can they get away with graphic gore and nudity and it's fine, but Ready or Not can't? I don't get it.
extremely violent games out there where players are using a
I would even
controller
argue that
and interacting
these
with
games
a very
are more
disturbing
graphic
world.
than Ready or
Those
Not.
games don't get near the level of scrutiny that Ready or Not does and are also on console. But that might be because of the themes. Ready or Not, from its inception, has been grounded.
And that's my point. All of its shock is based on where you are, what you're doing. It is only perceived as more gory than it actually is because of the scene you're in. Because it's a realistic SWAT simulator, things feel weightier. That's it. It's not because they're actually more gory than Doom, but because you're in a hospital, because you're in a school, because you're in a gas station. These are all real places that are very well, like again, it's not like Left 4 Dead's hospital. It's like, yeah, cool, there's zombies there, you kill them all, blah, blah, blah. We're talking about an actual real world scenario that's based off real world people, crimes, and politics put into the game. So there is that uncomfortable feeling throughout the game. But does that make it more gory or more nudier than other games that are on console? I don't think so. I think that those other games are actually worse when it comes to quote-unquote gore. Again, worse is probably not the best term because I do like me some good gory games. I like me some Gears of War and Doom and all this other shit. But I think the main perception is because this is from saying that's more realistic and grounded in reality. Doesn't mean it's more gorier, but people will just feel uneasy about it. That's it. There's an M-rated game in America, and they say partial nudity, but even say partial nudity is so cartoonish. So nudity is nudity, period. I don't care about the graphic style it's in. I think that's fine. That makes sense. But I think I don't think it should be censored nonetheless. Where I think nudity should probably start being censored is when it becomes porn. At that point, yeah, it probably shouldn't be in a game that is, at least when it comes to commercial. I get it that there's going to be people out there that want their porn games. They're still going to get it. That's going to happen no matter what. But when I'm talking about like basically what you're allowed to stream nude-wise is what I would consider to be not porn. Should be T-rated at most. Well, see, that depends on the country you're in. See, here in New Zealand, M-rated is considered teen. We don't have a T for teen. M is teen. So here we got G, PG, M, MA 15 plus, and then R16, R18, AO. If I remember them all correctly.
In reality. using real settings like the Pulse nightclub and Columbine High School massacre to frame its universe. So when you throw in
Should be
graphic
team. That's
scenes
fair.
of sexual
That's
violence,
fair.
torture, and child
I-
abuse, there is no way to
I think it's fine to rate it as teen, and this is only because I think parents should be keeping an eye on their kids a bit more. When we're talking about ratings like this, parents need to step up a whole fuck ton more. They really do. However, because parents aren't stepping up and they want the government to raise their kids, maybe M is fine for Shin Megami Tensei. Because it does have some pretty harsh themes of its own. On top of that, too, it is in the... I don't want to use the term religious because it doesn't just take from religion. It takes from folklore, religion, and all sorts around the world. It's kind of inspired by many stories when it comes to its demons and everything. However, it is all very dark shit that it does cover. So I think as a parent, if it was my kid, I would make sure my kid knows the difference between reality and fantasy before I would get them to play a game like that. I would be fine with my kid playing it around 9, 10, 11, 12 if they could identify the difference between playing a video game and reality. Then that's fine. Bad gas. There's American Urban Folklore Tale about a gas attack. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I actually, a little bit of a tangent. We've been doing a lot of those. But I watched a story about a gas mask dude ghost thing from somewhere in Sweden or something recently. That was pretty cool. Anyways, back to it.
make it make-believe. This is not a sci-fi alien being gibbed by your chainsaw assault rifle. It's a victim who had a name. And this all goes back to the split with Team 17 over the school mission. Void
Yeah,
Interactive
that's my point,
said
though.
that this is part of
All of this is, again, it's perceived more gore than it actually is. In actuality, it's less gore than what we play elsewhere, only because of the situation the game is in.
the fabric of Ready or Not story, that you create missions like this to help tell the story of victims, of first responders,
Yeah.
and the struggles that they have dealing with these situations.
See, this original post by the devs, I can stand behind. But they don't believe this post. This was all PR. Otherwise, they wouldn't be censoring what they are now. They actively went against their publisher's wishes, which, by the way, I think is hilarious, because everyone's excuse to give fellatio to developers is that they have to listen to their publisher, blah, blah. Well, these guys did it, and they popped off. Everyone praised them for it. So yeah, I think it's funny it destroys that argument. But yeah, they actively went against their publisher's wishes to make this game. They made a lot of money off it, but now they're going back on it. So I think in actuality, it was all just greed. At the end of the day, it was all just greed.
Unfortunately, when you say that at the inception of the game, it's very hard 4 years later to just say, no, I'm just kidding. It's actually not realistic.
Yeah.
Void Interactive unfortunately got themselves stuck in the situation where you literally cannot separate reality from game when it comes to violence. Every part of violence is implied, and it's done purposely to help tell the story.
But that's the thing.
And you can-
Every bit of gore or violence, or whatever you want to call it, in Ready or Not, is done purposely. Like I said, the respect and tact they had to these maps was done on purpose. Even fucking the nightclub map, where there is piles of bodies, the most amount of bodies in the game. That was all done specifically. It was obviously to show what was going on in this nightclub, that there is a lot of people that were made victims that night. And as a first responder, as someone on that scene, as a SWAT enforcer, it's your job to make sure no one else meets that fate. That was the point.
You can disagree with that, but out of all my research looking into this, seeing the past examples of censorships,
Say
the
Felicia.
games that
I
were
wanted to say
good,
more
the
unique
ones that were
sounding.
denied,
I think that word sounds funny. It's like the word scrote. I don't know. There's just some words that just sound funnier to me.
content that did end up finally releasing, and my very real feelings when I was playing Ready or Not, I honestly believe someone at Sony or Microsoft just looked at it and said, dude, this is too real. You need to dial it back. Because when someone plays a PC
You're
game,
right, though.
the world can just be like, that's just a PC gamer being weird and inappropriate. PCs are crazy. But if someone sees child abuse on an Xbox or a PlayStation, it's now Sony or Microsoft saying they're okay with child abuse.
So, okay, that's a very interesting thing he just said. is it then safe to assume then, based on that, okay, I'm not saying this in particular, I don't believe what I'm about to say, but based on what has just been talked about in this video, is he implying that if you play on consoles, that you are either A, less developed mentally, or B, a child? Is that what he's saying here? I'm not saying nothing, but it sounds like to me like he's saying that console players don't have many brain cells. I personally don't really like doing the us versus them type of argument. I actually hate those arguments with a passion. I believe a gamer is a gamer. I don't care what you game on. You can play whatever you want. But if that is the line of logic we're going on, why we have to censor things and dumb things down on console is because they don't trust their player base. Maybe that player base should take more offense to the consoles that they're playing on. Maybe they should be a bit more angry at their Microsoft and Sony and not the other players. Just, I don't know. It sounds like Sony and Microsoft are calling you guys dumb baby bitches.
Are they really? No, of course not. But it's marketing, it's optics, it's soccer moms who see their kids doing it on the Xbox in their living room.
Then don't buy them the game. Holy fuck. Soccer moms are seriously the worst at this. Learn how to be a parent first before you complain. Holy shit. All the power. 9-year-old Timmy doesn't have a job. Let's be real. The only way he got that game, actually there's two ways he got that game. His mates at school, which then you find that game and you throw it out. That's your job as the parent. Or you got him that game as the parent. That is your fault. Not the kids, not the consoles, not the government, and not the publishers. It's the parents' fault there, fully.
And are just ready to be angry at something. And that's why this is such a problem for the PC community. The realness is what defines ready or not. And the moment you walk into a scene that has a convulsing child, you act differently.
Yes,
because
you do.
Imagine what that child has been through. The
Yes.
moment that you walk into a room and see a police...
Like I said at the beginning of the video, that scene in particular was the biggest moment for me. That's where I saw, like, I had this change. I felt pissed off. I felt uneasy. And I knew that I had to finish that mission with that image in my head still.
informant mutilated beyond all comprehension, you act differently because you can see how painful
Yes.
the last few minutes of that person's life was. The moment you open up a container and see women not even given the decency of clothing.
Oh, no. The people trafficking those women now, they're giving them underwear now. They have some decency. See, this is my point. Especially when you're retroactively changing things. You are now changing a story. Because they're giving them clothing in the censorship, they are now implying that the people trafficking these women, they're implying that they felt bad, they put them in there naked and gave them some underwear now. Like, it is the most silliest thing I've seen. Oh, they're being trafficked, but at least they got underwear on. Have to give them that.
You act differently. Now, admittedly, from a code or graphics standpoint, these are all very small changes, right? But they result in very different sets of emotions for the players and the overall theme of the game. Now, I'm still of the opinion that these censored scenes are still very powerful and shocking in their own right.
No, I
but
disagree. I disagree. Like, I showed the scene he's talking about there. You can see the clothing on. I just don't want to bring it back up for a third time. But I think it actively takes away the moment. Like, I remember Darian's first reaction to that shipping container, because I already knew what was in there because I got spoiled on it. So I wanted to see his reaction of it. And when he saw it, he audibly said, "That's fucked up." He doesn't emote very much, but holy, it got to him. He was like, "Oh fuck." And then when you're forced to see these women naked in the cold, about to be trafficked, and you are forced by your commander to close that container and move on like nothing ever happened, you are immediately, the feeling you have is just vile. It is just disgust. And now it especially knowing where it comes from, like knowing what they're censoring, it feels goofy. It really does. Knowing what it used to be and what it is now feels goofy.
the very raw nature of what the game originally expressed.
They do it
Licenses ones
quickly. Yeah,
are way more
exactly.
Powerful. Now, is that worth a refund? Are players in their right to say, ready or not, use
Yes. Yes. They are actively changing content that you have purchased for a specific reason, and that reason has now changed. So it is not the same product you purchased. You should have a refund. That's the end of it.
you sold me on something that provided me a specific type of gameplay.
Also in the marketing, they always went on about being like all this nitty gritty and being, what was the word? Unwavering, not unwavering, but similar to unwavering. They weren't going to change, yet they changed.
And these changes, although small, change that completely.
I argue they're a little bit bigger than just small. They're not big. I'm not saying they're big, but I think they changed the story enough for it to be big enough. And I think even though that these aren't big changes, I think they're big enough to cause an issue. But the next problem is, what will they change next? If Microsoft comes to them and says, look, we actually don't like this school mission. It is really bad. We don't like it. If you do not remove this school mission, you cannot publish on this console. What happens when Void Interactive says, okay, we'll remove the school mission, not just for Xbox, but for everyone? Are we also going to say then it's just a small change? Are we going to be that lobster inside the pot boiling slowly? Or are we going to actually wake the fuck up and realize that any censorship and change should be stopped from the get-go? You remember when back in the day when we didn't have to worry about the shit because of internet issues? Remember when you purchased a game on a disc and that is what you got? That's how it should be again. I really hate the fact that we have games that are rushed, that end up coming out glitchy, so they're forced to patch it later. I hate that we have to do patching in the first place. I would love for a game to just come out, baked at the perfect temperature. We get it, and base game is base game. Anything else is expansion. I would love to go back to those days.
Maybe. I think there's an argument for that to be made.
One Friday
but
too much type
historically, the
deal?
developers-
I think so. I think it is one Friday too much type deal right now. But I'm scared of how much further will it go in the future. It's one fry too much now. Is it going to be loaded fries next time?
probably have a strong enough argument that the vast majority of the content is still unchanged. And that's not to say it's true or not true, but the only big content drop and refund success that I can really recall is No Man's Sky, where even if you had days of playtime,
I actually like this example a lot because it actually proves my point in exactly the same way. So No Man's Sky was marketed on so much more and we got so much less. So you were, again, it's the exact same story, just the type of content's different now. You were sold something and it changed. You purchased and pre-ordered based on what you were sold. That didn't happen. So you got a refund, rightfully so. However, now people say it's a good game. People will be like, oh, but that means it completely counters your previous point, right? No, that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. That content should have been in there from day one. That was what we were sold. That's what we should have had to begin with. Because they changed it afterwards to get to where they sold you on, that is not changing of content. That's actually delivering on what you were marketing. It would be different if, let's say, they marketed with less content and they added all this content later and it was saying forced upon you. You could probably make that argument. Maybe. But if I were to make No Man's Sky in that kind of way, where it was we marketed it on a whole lot less and then added stuff for free later, I would do it as a free expansion that you can opt in and out of. You can download it if you want. I think updates are in a dangerous gray area right now, and I think updates have kind of ruined gaming as a whole. I think for content that big, should be an expansion that you should download. If you want it to be for free, then just make the expansion free, and they can just download it if they want it. Simple as that. Many games do that already, and I find no issues with it.
you still got refunds. Steam wanted to make sure that people didn't literally spend money on a scam. Features were completely
And it was.
gone.
And I still will
But
argue
I
is.
think I fundamentally disagree that players would not have noticed these changes if the devs didn't mention them.
At
These
least it's not
missions
as
are
much of a
traumatic,
scam as it
and
used
although
to
new
be.
players may not see anything wrong, old players will always be able to remember the first time they walked into that room or opened that shipping container.
Yeah.
And I do think that is why
I
it's a
fully
valid
agree.
reason
Those
to
moments
criticize
were
the
insane.
game,
They
to
were
stop playing
very
it,
impactful.
and even write a negative review and request a refund, even if you don't get it. Because this one change also means that all future updates will be sanitized from the beginning. Ready or Not's console censorship may seem like unhinged gamers just praising violence and inappropriate things,
No,
but
I think
I enjoy
I think if you're making that argument that people are just upset over there being not enough violence and nudity, I think you're only a window looker. Like you have not actually seen the actual argument being proposed. It's not that we want these violence or anything like that. That is that we're sold on something and there's been actively changed, and so the product you have received. This goes for all categories, not just violence, not just nudity. This goes for everything. Why would you be happy defending a product you have purchased actively becoming something else that you did not purchase and support that? Sometimes it's for the better. You're like, oh, cool, I got a deal. But the problem is when going down that route, you are now opening the can of worms for the shitty things that happen too. And you can't have both. You have to say, look, sorry, in this case, you're gonna have both. You can't have it one or the other. So if you want a game to stay in a good condition, then these other things that change the game should be done as a separate download, like an expansion, or you go on the side of things where it's all just they can change it on an update, on a patch, which is cool and all. But that also means anything shitty that if the game actively becomes shitty, you have to stick by that. You have to you can't say, oh, I want this good shit, but not the bad shit.
playing games not just for the gameplay loop sometimes. I like stories. I like to have the emotional roller coaster of what they want me to go through. It's why people like things like horror movies or crime documentaries. There's something very real about experiencing the whole range of human emotions and questioning how people can do.
And let's be real too. How many times do we go to YouTube and we look up real scary story because you want something based in real life because you find it more scarier? Does that mean we're about to watch some scary comps. Does that mean we actually endorse a homeless man about to shank someone? Do we endorse that? No. But we relate to the people in the video. We know oh, that's scary. Yeah, that's pretty scary. But just because you watch that kind of content or play that kind of content does not mean you endorse it.
Certain things. I'm not going to go on a crime spree after watching these things, just as I wouldn't go on a crime spree after playing GTA 5.
Exactly.
Despite some articles downplaying these changes as minor and criticizing players who want to keep them, Ready or Not made a conscious business decision to change the theme of their game. I'm sure it was difficult for them to do, and I'm sure the devs pushed back. But the amount of money that would be
See, this is
injected
the
into
part I don't agree with. I think I will have to touch on what's in my head because I don't believe that for a second.
studio probably made them get over it eventually. Now, some people have suggested that they hope to get an uncensored version for PC gamers in the future since...
And guess what? I'm not sure if he's going to say it or not, but one of the developers was talking to us in the forum. It was like 3 of us talking to him. And he actively said he was being a bit of a snarky little bitch as well, which is why I'm also not on the dev side on this one. But he was... this developer not only started saying that us gamers were the bad ones, that we wanted this content, that we like the violence and nudity, and that we're weirdos and sickos for it. And everyone in the forum turned on to him and said, no, dude, you guys were the ones that made it. You guys did it first. We're just partaking in the product. But he said, and actively, aggressively said, that they will not be making a second version for PC, an uncensored version. Someone even asked if you could make just a different beta for it. Because in Steam, when you can go into the versions, you can go into different betas of a game. They said, could you just archive it at least? And he said, no, that ain't happening. So, yeah, the developers themselves...
Hi, how are you?
Yo, what up, Dio? Welcome to chat. The developers themselves have actively said that they're censoring the game for everyone, and if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. That is what they're saying.
Despite what the devs say, and I'm not a game dev myself, but I've seen it in other games, technically it's not super difficult to have different clients with different...
It's not just not super difficult, it's piss easy. They have to literally go out of their way to make this update for PC. They could just not do this update for PC. It's literally that simple.
different models or textures, but...
Everyone in the forums is also saying we don't even want crossplay. If it means that we have to sacrifice crossplay in order to not have a censored version, we'll take that gladly. And I agree. I agree. Want to see a quick non-spooky clip? All right, send it through. We'll do it.
I would be very surprised if I saw that. I highly doubt it, because that means every mission in the future may have to have
this is
separate...
technically not a spooky vid anyways. So the story is, Dio, I was working on a video last night about this situation, but Sony Vegas crapped the bed, all Amber Heard style, and I lost all of my footage. So we're going to slop react to this video instead of my own actual edited video where I had my own thoughts and shit. So now I'm just bouncing off this guy because it's going to be quicker and easier.
builds, and people aren't making console and PC exclusives anymore. You make one for the entire game, and that's it, especially if the game has crossplay. Either way, Ready or Not has changed.
So I don't get this. Because not only are they going out of their way to make this update for PC, but I have also seen many games that have crossplay but have things censored on one client and not the other. I have seen games where a mate has seen something and I'm like, what are you on about? Or vice versa. And let's see. They're debating which is a harder... Ooh, this will be interesting.
And although I
I'll
do
get that loaded
think
up
it
in
will
a
be a
sec.
very successful game on console, because there is still not a single game out there that...
Mentions now a React channel, but that makes it transformative. Exactly. I paused like 600 times. What, we're at an hour and 30, so over a 30-minute video. So yeah, it's transformative. We're good.
makes you feel those feelings. The player base
I try to be
is
as
rightly
I
upset.
try to be a variety streamer. There's things that I want. I really want to do this slop kind of side of things a lot. I want to branch out and do things like reacting or having my own input out there, like more Pegasus. I think his kind of content's amazing. Or Tectone. I like what Tectone does as well. But I also want to still have time dedicated to us to just chilling out and playing games too.
But people should really be more upset at Microsoft and Sony. The over-policing of their hardware is ridiculous, especially since at the minimum, 3 international ratings agencies, and I even talk about Japan, who also rated it for R17.
Hold
So
up.
4
Hold up. There's a whole ass country that I didn't even think of. Is it available in China? Yeah, my typing sucks. What of it? No, there isn't. Okay. Damn, because that could have been good for my argument too. Just kidding, but seriously. Okay, so there's not a Chinese version. Okay. That's a shame. I was hoping to use that as part of my argument. Ah, well. Because China's also extremely strict on censorship. Like, they censor a lot of weird shit.
agencies said that it was appropriate for adults without changes. That should be the real story here. How
Yeah, you're
these
right though,
console
Dio.
companies
You
have
are
standards
right though,
that
Dio.
are actually going against third-party ratings, multiple third-party ratings. It's exhausting. It burns out devs, and this is also why PC players now always have a chip on their shoulders when it comes to dealing with consoles. Now, I'm not saying don't give the game a negative review if you don't like it, or stop making a fuss about it on...
Dog, when it comes to reviews, if it has impacted you enough to leave a negative review, then you leave your negative review. If I just left a negative review today on MechBreak, which is a shame because I loved that game. We streamed the shit out of it. I loved that game. It doesn't even launch. I can't even get it to launch. So, negative review. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Simple as that.
Online, but we really need to somehow direct our anger a bit more towards these hardware companies if real change is going to be made.
No. Well, yes, but no. When you say direct, you're implying to take heat off developers. At the end of the day, everyone equally needs the heat. But I think in this case, I think there's something more going on. I don't think he's going to touch on it because there's not much of the video
In the
left.
future, money talks, and unfortunately right now, studios are listening. And that means censorship. But
Okay.
that's it for me.
So this guy did a really good video. I do agree with pretty much 95% of everything he's in the video. He's a great dude. Also, I have to glaze him because he's ex-medical, so I have to glaze him. Giving him a subscribe. Everyone go subscribe to him. Go check out his video. Really cool dude. What I want to add on to this, though, is that he didn't go over the fact that I think it's actually the developers themselves are causing this issue. Like I said, I think the ratings boards are causing some problem, but I can't confirm this, but I will throw this idea out there. It feels a bit like Call of Duty in the aspect that Call of Duty recently had a issue where it came out that most, if not all of their developers don't like guns. Yes, they're making a war-themed game, and they don't even understand, know, or like the subject that they're doing. And it's ridiculous. We see that kind of quality drop in Call of Duty. Now we have issues with Call of Duty just being ridiculously stupid. I think something similar is going on with Void Interactive. I think there's a couple of people, if not multiple more people, involved with this game developer now that don't like the subject of this game. They don't like the comments about Blue Lives Matter. They don't like these quote-unquote wokies and all this other shit. And so they're causing problems internally. The reason why I say this is because they've actually bent the knee to games Uranus like Kotaku before and recently. Varadark did a video on it recently where talking about how there was a empty pill packet in the game in a trash can, and it was called Red Pill. And the brand name was called Noggin Jogger. Holy fuck, did Kotaku take this to an extreme. Like, they are very autistic when it comes to this shit. First of all, they're upset about the term red pill because it's quote-unquote alt-right. It's like, okay, it's literally a meme, but whatever. Then they got really, and I mean really upset over the term noggin jogger. For those of you who don't know, a noggin jogger is literally what they used to call crosswords and all this other shit. Like, you'd see it in like old newspapers and shit. It was just things to jog your noggin. That's all it is. But Kotaku thought it was related to this quote-unquote racist meme. You guys want to take a guess what the racist meme it is? That's right, it was just a Pepe. Yeah, I kid you not. Everything's fucking racist these days. So yeah, they bent the knee, removed it, censored it, and yeah, I think they seriously do care about what these games journalists, Uranus, think of them. So I think there's something more going on. I think there's something internal with the developers, and I think they deserve completely everything they're getting right now. And I hope that people are offered refunds. Anyways, good video. Everyone go check out Moy Dog. He's pretty sick. Fellow medical person, so I have to give him some glazing. Go check him out. He's cool.